Hey artists, welcome to the At Night Inspired Art Project. This project is called Moonlit Macaws, and it focuses on the elements of art: space, color, and texture. All right, before we get started on the project, I'm going to go over some I can statements, the grading rubric, and the supplies that you need before we start. I hope you're getting excited. Okay, first let's review the I can statements for the Moonlit Macaw. These are the main things that you should learn and hopefully be able to do by the end of this project. Number 1, students will learn about line so that I can use straight, short, and curved lines to create feather texture on my macaw wings and body. Number 2, students will learn about value so that I can make the foreground of my project bright and the background dull to create the illusion of space. And lastly, students will learn about color so that I can choose bright colors that will contrast against my dark background. So everywhere where it says I can, that's you, the student. You will be able to learn and practice and show that you can do all 3 of these statements by the end of your Moonlit Macaw Nighttime Inspired Art Project. Next, I'm going to quickly review the drawing breakdown of the macaw. Now, when you watch the video lesson, I will go over this step again and show you how to draw both the sitting macaw and the macaw that is in flight. So, you would be doing step number 1, where you draw a square with curved corners near the top right of the corner. Draw a diagonal line to divide, add an eye and beak. Then you would move to step 2. Draw a curved line for the top of the head, beginning on the beak and curving up to the left and around the eye. Next, you would add Number 3, continue the line of the head and draw a teardrop shape for the wing. After that, you would move on to step 4, add curved belly and long tail feathers. Lastly, you're going to add straight and curved lines to create the feather texture. And again, I do go over this step by step in the video lesson. I show both the sitting macaw and how to draw the macaw in flight. But I wanted to show you this a little bit of ahead of time so you can get an idea of what we're going to be doing. Okay, from here, you're going to review the rubric, the supplies you will need, and then we will start the project. Have fun! Before and after this Moonlit Macaw project, we need to review the grading rubric. This is where I'm going to tell you exactly all of the elements you must have in your artwork in order to receive full credit for the project. So I'm going to talk about the different elements. We're going to break it down. I'm going to explain it. You need to listen to this grading rubric before you start the art project, and then once you're done with the art project, before you turn it in. All right. Element 1, or first thing you're going to need to double check and make sure your artwork has line and texture usage on the macaws. So, did you use the straight, short, and curved lines to create texture on the birds? In the video, I showed you how to make those textures on the macaw. So if you forgot to do that part, go ahead and go back into the video and find the part of the video where I show how to add the textures. Do not turn in the project if you did not add the textures to your birds. All right, once you've added your textures and you know you've added it, then you are good to go. We're going to move on to the next element of the project that you need to have. You created color contrast in the jungle. Did the student create contrast by using bright colors against a dark background? In the video, remember I talk about the different ways you can use colors in your jungle background to create that contrast, to make some of the colors pop out more than others. Did the student use white to create a value scale within the jungle? Remember from the quiz, a value scale goes from light to dark or dark to light. In the video lesson, I discuss how to make some areas of the jungle brighter and some areas duller by using white. And then, of course, did the student color over all the white areas of the jungle? You need to make sure that after you've drawn all your stuff out in white, you go back and you color in everything that is white. Don't leave white parts sticking out throughout your jungle. Try your best to cover it all. Okay, once you've done that correctly, then let's check for the third part you need. Apply the element of art, value, and space. So you should have completed the quiz on value and space before you started this Moonlit Macaw project. That way you fully understand value and space. Let's ask ourselves these questions while we're working and at the end of the project. Did the student use value to create brighter details in the foreground, the front of the picture, and duller details in the background, the back of the picture, to create a sense of space? Did the student draw parts of the jungle larger in the foreground, the front of the picture? Did the student draw parts of the jungle smaller in the background? Remember, when things are closer to you, the viewer, in the foreground, they are bigger. When you are looking in the background, that's supposed to be further away from you, so things get smaller. Next, we're going to skip down here before we go to the project completed properly part. All right, now make sure that you have added at least 2 macaw birds to the jungle. Did the student create at least 2 macaws? You must have 2 or more macaws in your art piece. You are more than welcome to make more than 2, but in order to get credit, you need to have at least 2. Remember, in the video, I demonstrate how to draw both types of macaws, the one that is sitting and the one that is in flight. Okay, once you've made sure you've had your 2 macaws, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to check project completed properly. This is the last step you need to make sure that you have done on your project. Project completed properly. Is the project fully completed with all required elements added to the art piece? So those elements include use of lines and textures on the macaw, created color contrast in the jungle, use the element of art space and value in the jungle, no white area showing, all white has been colored over completely. You have added at least 2 macaws. Lastly, do not turn in incomplete work. I have taken the time to go over the grading rubric, and I have taken the time to put the grading rubric in the beginning of the project and at the end of the project video for you to double check and review your work. Once you have all of the elements of the project, please go ahead and take a clear picture of the project. Make sure it's not blurry. Or take a video of the project and submit it in the assignment on the Canvas page. If you need any help or have any questions, remember to email me or come during your scheduled Zoom times. All right, I hope you enjoyed the Macaw project, or I hope you will enjoy the Macaw project. Okay, before we start the project, as a reminder, make sure that you review and understand the grading rubric so you know what elements of the project you must have to get a passing grade. Now, we're going to talk about the supplies that you need for this project and some of the alternative supplies you could use instead if you don't have exactly what the lesson calls for. Now, as you can see, I used different colored paper, black paper, and pastel. So let's talk about the supplies you're going to need. It would be awesome if you have one of those giant pieces of black construction paper, the really big pieces. If you don't have that, that's fine. Go ahead and just use a regular size black piece of construction paper. If you don't have black, then use a dark colored paper, so maybe dark blue or dark purple. Then you're going to want to grab a couple different colored paper, any color, to draw your macaws on. A really awesome thing is if you have access to neon colored paper, so that super bright colored paper will really make the macaws pop off of the page. So if you have access to really bright neon colored paper, I would use that. If you don't, that's fine. Go ahead and use what you have. Next, there are a couple ways you can color in the project. You can use oil pastels, which is highly recommended. If you don't have pastels, then go ahead and use your traditional crayons. Now, a really awesome type of crayon to use on dark construction paper is what you call construction paper crayons. Okay, so construction paper crayons, they are going to show more of the color on a darker surface paper. But if you don't have construction paper crayons and you don't have oil pastel and you don't have regular crayons, then go ahead and use like colored pencils or maybe even markers if you don't have crayons, pastel, or construction paper crayons. Now the next couple things you're going to need is some scissors, an eraser, pencil, a black permanent marker. If you don't have a black permanent marker, go ahead and just use a regular black marker. Then lastly, you are going to need liquid glue. Glue stick is going to be a little bit tricky for this one. I recommend liquid glue. If you don't have liquid glue, then go ahead and use a glue stick. All right, make sure you've gathered your supplies. Once you have everything, go ahead and come back and we will start the first step of this project. Okay, welcome back. So I have broken down the project into different sections in case you want to complete the project in different parts at a time. So you don't have to sit and do the project all at once. You can do it in different sections and then take breaks between the different sections. So our first section is going to focus on drawing our macaws out and adding our colors to the macaws. All right, so what you need to get is your colored piece of paper that you're going to use for the macaws, the birds, your black marker, and your colored pastels or crayons or whatever coloring item you are going to be using. As well as I have the step-by-step instructions on the assignment page, so you can either print it out or you can look at it, or you can go ahead and follow along as I demonstrate how we're going to draw the macaw. So go ahead, gather those supplies, your marker, the black one, your colored paper, and whatever you're using to color in parts of the bird, your pastels. Once you have those, come back and we will start drawing. Okay, perfect. So I'm using a bright blue, a neon colored piece of paper, and I'm not going to make the macaw the size of the paper. I actually want to turn my paper so it's horizontal, side to side, and I'm going to fold the paper in half like a book. Make sure you line up the corners. Okay, so I have pressed down. Now your macaw is only going to be this size. You're going to try and draw it as big as the paper. So we are going to do step 1, which is draw a square with curved corners near the top right corner. Then you're going to draw a diagonal line to divide, add the eye and the beak. So go ahead, grab either your pencil. So if you don't feel comfortable drawing directly with your Sharpie, go ahead and grab the pencil. And if you draw in pencil first, then you'll need to go over with your pencil lines with black and then erase any pencil lines you can see through the black marker. All right, we're gonna draw a rounded edged square in the top right corner area. So I want to curve around those edges. Then I'm going to draw a diagonal line, a circle for the eye. I'm going to color in this section black. Now I need to add the beak. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to do a small curve line, come back, leave some space, and then you're going to do a bigger curve line down to a point for our beak. Okay, so now we have our beak. We've done step 1. Next, we are going to do step 2. Draw a curved line for the top of the head, beginning on the beak and curving up to the left and around the eye. So we're adding this curved line. You want to leave a little space from the head and start on the beak, and you're going to curve down. So I'm going to curve up, around, and down. Now I have the top of my head. Perfect. Remember, you can always pause the video if you need help, if you need to review something, or if you want to slow things down. You can pause the video. All right, now we're going to do step 3. Continue the line of the head and draw a teardrop shape for a wing. So you're going to start right about here. You're going to draw a wing about that big. Okay, so going from the top about to, I would say, the middle of your paper. And you're doing this teardrop shape. So I'm going to curve around and kind of go to a point. And then I'm going to curve and connect. So I'll curve around, I'm curving, and then I'm going to connect. And now I have my wing. Perfect. All right, let's move to number 4, step 4. Add a curved belly and long tail feathers. So you can do this 2 different ways. You could draw this long belly line first, or you can draw the short tail line feather first. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw the shorter line. So see how you start a little bit above the wing. I'm going to curve around. And then I'm going to stop. I'm going to go up to the top right here, right where the beak and the eye meet. And I'm going to curve around and do my belly and back to the tail feather. Now it's okay if you make a mistake. Not a big deal. We can always fix mistakes. Curving around and back. So I made my tail a little chunky, and that's okay. You can thin yours out, not a problem. Now next you're going to add a straight and curved lines to create feather textures. So I got to add my curved line for my belly. I'm going to start right about here, and I'm going to curve, and I'm going to come down. So now I have my belly line. Whoops. That's okay, no big deal. Now, there's 2 ways you can do this part of adding the details of the feathers and the textures on the macaw body. You can choose to create them all with the black marker, or you can grab your pastels and add the textures of the feathers and then the body with the pastels directly instead of using the Sharpie. Either one is fine. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it with the Sharpie. So we're going to do these feathers. They're kind of like bumpy lines connected, or scales maybe. And you're going to go ahead and make those feathers. And you can make them different sizes. And you want to make sure that you don't put a feather line directly into this little crease or this little area. You want to make sure that when you do one of these, you connect it to a curved part, not to the part that goes in. So then it really gives you some 3 dimensions, which is what you are trying to show when you add texture or this scale looking approach, these feathers. So go ahead and add that. Once you're done adding the feathers, you're going to add these small little lines on the body of the macaw, which is going to show some texture of the smaller feathers. So you simply do that by making some little dash lines throughout the body of the macaw. Now you want to make the lines moving down when the body's naturally moving down. When you go around the head, you want to start making the lines go the motion or the direction that the head is going. So see how my lines are going a little bit out. Then as I move up, my lines are going to be going up towards the top. And then when I go back down, my lines are going to go out. Okay, so now I have my feathers. I have my textures for the body, and then I'm going to add a couple of these lines for the tail feathers. Perfect. Okay, so we have done one macaw. Go ahead and move this macaw to the side. We're going to talk about this bird, okay? This is our bird that is in motion. So if you would like to create this bird to be in flight, you can draw the wings outstretched instead of tucked in at the side. So right now, you're going to go ahead and make a few more macaws. So you can make all of your macaws like this. You can make some of your macaws in flight, but you want to use the different colored paper. And you need to make at least 2 macaws. At least 2 macaws. 2 macaws. Okay? I would say make one this way and try and make one this way in flight. Once you are done drawing out your macaws, go ahead and grab your pastels or your crayons, whatever you are drawing with, and come on back and we'll do the next step of this part of the project. For those that would like to draw the bird that's in flight, the macaw that looks like it's flying, I'm going to demonstrate now how to draw that. So you would get a different colored piece of paper. You're going to do the same thing by folding the paper in half. And then let's turn it horizontal. Okay? Go ahead and grab your black marker or your pencil. And we're going to do a lot of the same steps. We're just going to be making the body in a little bit different shape and having the wings outstretched so it looks like it's flying. All right, so we have our paper. We're going to make the bird as big as we can, and you want to make sure you take into consideration where you place the head on your paper, because you're going to need to also leave enough space on your paper for the wings. Alrighty, so I'm going to go right in this area on the right side, and I'm going to make that rounded square that we've done before. Got my rounded square. I'm going to go ahead and do my diagonal line, add my eye, color in my area, add my beak, boom, leave some space, curve around. Now I have my beak. Next we're going to add our head. Same thing, leave a little bit of space from the square and the beak, and you're going to come around for the head. Okay, now I have that one. Next, you can either do the bottom line for the body, where the belly is, or you can do the top line for the back and down to the feather. It's whatever you are comfortable with. This part is a little tricky for me, so you do your best. I'm going to start with my top line and see how it's kind of curving a little bit. I'm going to curve right about here. Curve. Okay, now I need to make this rounded edge. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to curve up a little bit and in, and then I'm going to make my belly line. So I'll go back here right before the beak starts, and I'm going to curve around and back. Now I'm going to add my belly line, leaving some space right under the eye area. Curve out a little bit and then back down for my belly. Perfect. Remember, you can always pause the video if you need to slow down and take your time drawing something. All right, we are moving on to the wings. Okay, so remember when you draw, you can always turn your paper to help you. I like to turn my paper when I need to get something I'm drawing to go in a different direction. So it's more natural for me when I draw. We're going to draw this first wing, which is going to start right about here where the head and the body meet. And you're going to curve up, and we're going to make those two big curved lines around. So I have it here, and then I have one going out a little bit. Then I turn my paper back so it's more natural. I'm going to go down, and I'm going to make those curved, kind of bumpy lines down to the body. Okay? Next, we need to add the other feather, which is behind this one. So you're going to start right about here on our first feather. And you're going to go out, and you're going to curve down and around, and you're going to make those curved lines like we did before all the way to the body. So now you have your two your two wings sticking out. Now we need to add our details like we did in the first macaw. Our feathers on our wings, our texture on the body, and our lines on the tail for the tail feather. So remember, you're going to go ahead and make those curved lines like we did before, which are those scales. And you're going to do that for all of the parts of the feathers, of the wings. So go ahead and add your feathers, add your texture, add your lines at the tail feather, and then come on back and we will do the next step. All right, so now you have completed drawing your two macaws. Remember, you can make more than two if you'd like, but the directions call for at least two macaws. Now, I like to add some darker tips. I like to color in the very last line of the feather design, so it kind of gives it that 3-dimension, and you'll be able to tell, okay, this is the feather that's in front of this feather that's in the background, so the foreground and the background. Now go ahead, if you did this in pencil, you need to go over the pencil marks with the black permanent marker or your black marker. Then you want to erase any pencil marks, okay? And that's if you decided to draw it out in pencil. Now you need to grab your pastels, if you're using pastels, or your crayons if you're using crayons. I'm going to show how to color in the macaws with both crayons and pastels. Let's take a look at our step that we are on, okay? You are going to use oil pastels to draw short, straight, and curved lines to give the illusion of feather textures on your bird's wing and body. Okay, so if we're looking, notice that there are colors And that helps with creating the different textures of our macaw birds. So if you look at the example that I've already completed, you'll see that I've just added small amounts of color to create some 3-dimension texture within our macaws. I didn't color every single part of the macaw in with the color, but I added the color to create those details. All right, here we go. Let's do some coloring. I'm going to start with my bird in motion, and I'm going to do this bird with my construction paper crayons, but remember you can do them with pastel or regular crayons. And you can do any colors you'd like. So I'm going to do purple, remember any colors, and you're just going to do kind of some outline of your feathers. And you would do that for all of the feathers. Okay. Once you have filled in all of the feathers with whatever color you've chosen, and you've just done that brief little outline, you would grab another color and you would put kind of like either another little curved line in there, or you just slightly color in the area. And I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, see how I colored in just a little bit of that part of the feather? That's what you would do inside the rest of them. Okay, so they don't have to be all colored in. You would color the feathers, then you have your textures. So you would go ahead and grab a different color, and you would put the color right next to the lines that you made with your black marker. And you can put them in some of the other spaces too. They don't have to be exactly next to the black lines. You can fill up some of your extra space with those colors. So you would do that. You need to add some color next to the tail feathers, so some quick lines. Then you need to add the texture for the belly, which are kind of like little U shapes. And you just kind of scatter those around for the whole belly. So right now, go ahead and color both macaws, or all of the macaws, depending on how many you make. But remember, you need to make at least 2. So go ahead and add your color texture to your macaws. Once you're done, come on back and we'll do the next step. Or once you're done adding the colors, you can pause the video at this time and take a break and come back at a later day or a later time if you're not completing the project in one sitting. All right, have fun adding the color texture to your macaws. Come back once you're done. Okay, welcome back. Now, let's double check that you have added all the elements of colored texture to your macaw birds. So you have added some color texture to the body. You've added some color texture to the wings. You've added some colored texture to the belly. You've added some color to the beak. And then you've added that white area by the eye. Once you have done this, go ahead and move the birds to the side. You don't need them yet. You'll need them later. And you're going to grab your black piece of paper. If you have the like really big piece of construction paper, that's awesome to use. If you don't, then go ahead and use just the regular black construction paper. Remember, if you don't have black at all, then use a dark colored piece of paper such as dark blue or dark purple. Then you're going to grab your white pastel or your white crayon, whatever it is that you're drawing with in white. Once you have the paper and your white pastel, go ahead and come back and we will start the next section of the project. Now we're going to talk about creating the background. You're going to make sure that your black piece of paper is horizontal, and because the paper is black, some of the colors of the oil pastels or the crayons will not show up very brightly. So to ensure that your colors are bright and pop off the page, you're going to draw everything in white. Then you're going to color those details of your background in with white. And you need to think about what you would include: trees, vines, flowers, a bright shining moon, because remember we are drawing the macaws at night. You want to create a really lush jungle for your macaw birds to explore. Now, a really big thing, and I'll talk about this also again when we get to this part, is to create a sense of space. Remember, you learned that in the quiz. You can add different values. Remember, you learned that in the quiz. Values go from light to dark or dark to light. Color in the objects that are in the foreground using heavier pressure so they will appear brighter, and use lighter pressure for things that are in the background so they appear darker and more dull. Remember, the foreground is the area in the front of the picture or closest to the viewer, and the background is the area behind, all the way in the back. It's furthest away from the viewer. After we've added and colored in the white, and then we've added those brighter areas and those darker areas, we're going to move on to coloring. And you'll use different colored oil pastels or crayons, whatever you are using, to color over the white pastel. And then lastly, don't be afraid to mix colors to create your own colors. Try to use bright colors that will contrast the dark sky. So that will kind of pop out so you can see that we use some bright colors. If you're using neon oil pastels, and you can get those from the store, some people might have them, or maybe you're using neon colored crayons, over the white base layer, your background will glow if you have a black light. If you don't have neon oil pastels, regular colored oil pastels will work fine, but they will not glow. So if you do have the neon oil pastels, then they should glow under a black light. And if you do, it'd be super awesome if you could take a picture of it with the black light on. All right, so let's start. And you don't have to make the background exactly how I make it. You can go ahead and add your vines in different places, your flowers, your trees in different places, your moon. Maybe you want to make the half moon or the crescent. So see how we have the crescent, and you want to add lots of different ways for the background. Remember, you're making that lush jungle. Okie dokie. Grab your whatever you're using that is white, and your black paper. Make sure it is horizontal. We are going to do the first step of this section. We're going to be making the background. Now I'm going to start with the trees. So go ahead and pick where you want to add the tree. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my tree. And you can put your other tree somewhere else. You don't have to follow what I do. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom, and when I'm using this, I really want to press down. You can always go over your lines if you think you made them too light. Then you're going to work on adding some flowers, some vines, a moon, and you can either go ahead and pause the video and go create your background the way you would like to, or you can continue watching me demonstrate drawing all the steps of the background. Okay, now in this area I'm going to add the leaves of the tree. And the tree's kind of cut off, so we can only see some. And we're going to add some more leaves over here for our other tree. And remember, you can make things overlapping and going off of the page, right? Okay. Next, I'm going to add my vines. And I'm going to make it look like it's kind of coming behind the tree. So I'll make a little line and a little line. And then when I'm drawing, I like to move my paper around so that it's easier for me to draw certain steps, because sometimes it's more natural to draw something in one position than it is another. So I'm going to turn my paper around, and I'm going to draw this kind of curve to a point shape, like the bulb of a flower. Now I'm going to go back, and off my vine I want to make some other little flowers popping off, and some leaves where I curve to a point. Okay. Then I'm going to make the crescent shaped moon instead of the rounded shaped moon like I did in my original example. I have kind of the round circular moon. This time I'm going to do that crescent moon. So it's kind of like that fat C shape. All right. Then you're going to need to add some of the lush jungle down here. So maybe you want some leaves sticking up. Maybe you want some flowers. And you can create, any type of flowers. You don't have to create flowers that look, like mine. You can make your own flowers up. Maybe you have some more leaves over here. And then you have some elements in the background to draw. So you can do, fun kind of plants that are sticking up. I'm going to curve around, and this is going to go all the way down behind my flower. And you can make things, different sizes. And I really like these, so I'm going to put one on the other side, or on the other side of the tree, because I like those. They're fun. But you can kind of work on, creating your own parts of the forest. You don't have to copy mine. On the assignment page, these pictures are there as examples along with some other student examples, so you can get some ideas on creating your jungle. And let's see, I think I will add another vine kind of coming down and behind here. Okay, I have my other vine. This one I'm going to draw a little bit thicker and bigger because it's going to be in the foreground, the front. Remember, I like to turn my paper a lot when I'm drawing to really help me draw better and have more control. Add my different elements. Okay, perfect. So I have my background drawn out in white. Now it's time to add the different values of white to create a sense of space. So remember, to create a sense of space, you can add different values of white. Color in objects that are in the foreground, so that's closest to you, the viewer, using heavier pressure. That means you press down hard on the pastel or the crayon so that they will appear brighter. And use lighter pressure, so barely press down, for things that are in the background, so they will appear darker. Okay, so we're going to do some of that. Now, this part and the flower and here, those are all for me in the foreground. So I'm going to press down and I'm going to really color in all of those. So right now, determine which parts of your picture are in the foreground of your artwork. Go and color in. Remember, by adding a lot more pressure, go color in those objects that you want in the foreground with more pressure. Then come back and we'll do the items that are in the background with less pressure. Now you should have colored in with a lot of pressure the parts of your macaw jungle with white. Next, the areas that are considered in the background, you're just going to do light pressure. So that means don't press down as hard, and you're going to lightly color in the rest of your jungle elements lightly. So see the difference? I pressed with a lot of pressure, so I really filled in with white the areas that are in the foreground, the front, and then the areas of my jungle that are in the background, I used very light pressure. So go ahead and fill in the rest of those areas, and then do not do the moon. Come back once you are ready to do the moon. Perfect. Now you've done the background and the foreground. Let's do the moon. So there's two ways. Either you did this crescent moon or maybe you did the circular moon. You're going to go ahead and color in the moon, I would say about medium, so a little bit. And then you're going to make kind of these wifting lines around the outer part of the moon. And you're going to do that so it kind of looks like it's, glowing in the sky. All right? And you would do that for the crescent moon or the rounded moon, okay? Now, if you used colored pencil, you're going to still need to do the white parts correctly. And then you'll apply the colored pencil color over your white spots. Remember, if you're using crayon or pastel, same thing. You need to have those areas of white colored in correctly. So you press firmly down and color everything in that you want in the foreground, the front of the paper. Then you lightly color things in for the background. Okay, the last step for this section of the project is to color in the jungle. All right, so you're going to use different colored oil pastels to color directly over the white, and you want to make sure you cover up all of the white. You don't want to see any part of the white. Don't be afraid to mix colors to create your own custom colors. Try to use bright colors that will contrast with the dark night sky. So that use your bright colors for things in the foreground, and then you can use kind of your darker colors for things in the background. All right? Go ahead and grab your colored crayons or pastels or colored pencils and come on back and we will do the coloring process. Remember, at any time you can pause the video, do your work and catch up. You don't have to feel like you're rushed and doing it as fast as I'm doing it. Now I have my colored pastels and I'm going to work on coloring the different parts of my jungle. So a fun thing to do with trees is when you are coloring over the white, and see I have some of my flower coming in front of the tree, I like to put some different colors within my tree. So I did a little brown, and then I'm going to add some yellow to it to give it kind of more texture to it, a little more color. It gives it a little bit more of the detail that I want. Little bit, just gives a little bit extra, which is great. So you don't have to make, the tree trunk all brown. You can go ahead and add some other color elements into it, like maybe a little bit of red. You can pop a little red in there. That works too, to just kind of blend it. I like to use the lighter colors to blend over some of my darker colors. Okay, so you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna color in your jungle. I'll show one more thing and then you will pause the video and you will go and color all of the elements of your project, and then you will either come back and do the last parts of the project, or you will take that time to pause and then come back and do the rest of the project at a later time or a date, so you're not feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or rushed. Again, the last part of this section is to color in the entire jungle look. Okay, so for my flowers, I like to do kind of a base coat of a color, and then I like to go in and add another color to give it some more dimension, to really make it pop out. So I'm just adding a little bit of purple onto my petals of the giant kind of flower that I made. And you can mix, your colors throughout your work. All right. Now it is your time. Go ahead, color everything, and come on back once you are done, and we will do the last section of the project. I just wanted to check in and see how the coloring process is going and show you a little bit of what I've been working on. Now with my vine, I've pushed the green part of my vine into a little bit of my flower bulb and of my flowers over here, so it kind of has that natural flowing look. I've also done some blending on my flowers, so my flowers aren't just one solid color. I've kind of made that really pretty red, yellow, and orange blend. And then over here, I have two different pinks that I've blended in. So just checking on you, seeing how you're doing, and giving you a little bit more tips and tricks and ideas. Continue coloring in this part of the project. When you're done, either take a break and come back later, or come back and we'll finish the rest of the project. Welcome back to the last section of our Moonlight Macaws. You should now have had every part of the jungle colored in. Now it's okay to leave, parts of the black paper showing for this project because it is a nighttime inspired project. So for our very last step of our project, we're going to be putting it all together. We're going to cut out the birds along the outside line. So you're going to try and leave some of that black marker line intact. You're going to arrange the birds on top of the background without gluing it so that you plan out where it is you want to put your macaws. Once you are satisfied, you can use the liquid glue or a glue stick on the back of the birds and attach them to your moonlit background. Then your flock of macaws is ready for nighttime around the jungle. Remember, you should have made at least 2 macaws, but are encouraged to make more than 2. So go ahead, move your background out of the way. Grab those beautiful macaws that you drew and colored. And you're going to open the page back up. If you didn't cut it, cut along the line so that you can save your paper you didn't use. Cut, 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 cut. Then you're going to do some shadow cutting. Remember, shadow cutting is where you cut right next to the black line, but you don't cut on the black line. So you're going to take this time, shadow cut. Take your time, slow down when you cut because you want to shadow cut right along the outer black line of your macaw. So once you're done cutting your macaws out, come back and we will do the placement. I bet your macaws look fabulous now that they are cut out. Now remember, you're shadow cutting, so you're cutting right along the black line that you drew for your macaw. And see how I even cut out the parts of my wings that were overlapping? You still want to make sure you cut that part out. So now just kind of move the birds to the side because you're still going to need them. Grab your background and you're going to kind of figure out where it is exactly that you want to place your macaws. And once you are happy with where you've decided to place them, you're going to go ahead and glue them onto the paper. And it's okay if some of it overlaps or some of your bird sticks off of the paper. That's fine, not a big deal. Go ahead, place your macaws where you want them. Then turn them over and glue them. Once you're done gluing your macaws, come back and we'll double check the grading rubric and make sure that you have all of the project elements you need for full credit. Then you'll take a picture or a video and submit your project. Okay, artists, you have completed the Moonlit Macaw project. Woohoo! Give yourself a round of applause. Okay, so you can stay on and listen to me go over the elements of the grading rubric and double check your work, or you can close the video, take a picture of your work, and double check the rubric posted at the bottom of the assignment page for the Moonlight Macaws on your art canvas page. All right, so either stay on and listen to the rubric and double check your work as you're listening, or close the video, check the rubric on your own, take a picture or a video, and submit. Okay, hope you had an awesome time creating the Moonlit Macaws. Oh yeah, and if you were able to use neon oil pastels or neon crayons, and you've before and after this Moonlit Macaw project, we need to review the grading rubric. This is where I'm going to tell you exactly all of the elements you must have in your artwork in order to receive full credit for the project. So I'm going to talk about the different elements. We're going to break it down. I'm going to explain it. You need to listen to this grading rubric before you start the art project, and then once you're done with the art project, before you turn it in. All right. Element 1, or first thing you're going to need to double check and make sure your artwork has line and texture usage on the macaws. So, did you use the straight, short, and curved lines to create texture on the birds? In the video, I showed you how to make those textures on the macaw. So if you forgot to do that part, go ahead and go back into the video and find the part of the video where I show how to add the textures. Do not turn in the project if you did not add the textures to your birds. All right, once you've added your textures and you know you've added it, then you are good to go. We're going to move on to the next element of the project that you need to have. You created color contrast in the jungle. Did the student create contrast by using bright colors against a dark background? In the video, remember I talk about the different ways you can use colors in your jungle background to create that contrast, to make some of the colors pop out more than others. Did the student use white to create a value scale within the jungle? Remember from the quiz, a value scale goes from light to dark or dark to light. In the video lesson, I discuss how to make some areas of the jungle brighter and some areas duller by using white. And then, of course, did the student color over all the white areas of the jungle? You need to make sure that after you've drawn all your stuff out in white, you go back and you color in everything that is white. Don't leave white parts sticking out throughout your jungle. Try your best to cover it all. Okay, once you've done that correctly, then let's check for the third part you need. Apply the element of art, value, and space. So you should have completed the quiz on value and space before you started this Moonlit Macaw project. That way you fully understand value and space. Let's ask ourselves these questions while we're working and at the end of the project. Did the student use value to create brighter details in the foreground, the front of the picture, and duller details in the background, the back of the picture, to create a sense of space? Did the student draw parts of the jungle larger in the foreground, the front of the picture? Did the student draw parts of the jungle smaller in the background? Remember, when things are closer to you, the viewer, in the foreground, they are bigger. When you are looking in the background, that's supposed to be further away from you, so things get smaller. Next, we're going to skip down here before we go to the project completed properly part. All right, now make sure that you have added at least 2 macaw birds to the jungle. Did the student create at least 2 macaws? You must have 2 or more macaws in your art piece. You are more than welcome to make more than 2, but in order to get credit, you need to have at least 2. Remember, in the video, I demonstrate how to draw both types of macaws, the one that is sitting and the one that is in flight. Okay, once you've made sure you've had your 2 macaws, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to check project completed properly. This is the last step you need to make sure that you have done on your project. Project completed properly. Is the project fully completed with all required elements added to the art piece? So those elements include use of lines and textures on the macaw, created color contrast in the jungle, use the element of art space and value in the jungle, no white area showing, all white has been colored over completely. You have added at least 2 macaws. Lastly, do not turn in incomplete work. I have taken the time to go over the grading rubric, and I have taken the time to put the grading rubric in the beginning of the project and at the end of the project video for you to double check and review your work. Once you have all of the elements of the project, please go ahead and take a clear picture of the project. Make sure it's not blurry. Or take a video of the project and submit it in the assignment on the Canvas page. If you need any help or have any questions, remember to email me or come during your scheduled Zoom times. All right, I hope you enjoyed the Macaw project, or I hope you will enjoy the Macaw project.